morning, Mr. President. How are you
Morning.
today?
How are you? Good.
I'm good as well. And I'm happy that you took some time to engage in this important discussion. Before I get into some of the substantive questions, we've heard a lot about the plans to rescue Georgetown, and we've seen some comments from the citizenry. Have you also been receiving that kind of positive feedback?
Yeah, since we spoke about the plans to rescue Georgetown, we've had a lot of positive feedback. And look at the beauty of Georgetown, when you look at Main Street, and it is this upkeep of Main Street and the rest of the avenues and streets in Georgetown that we want to embark on, having a clean city, a green city, a city that is safe also, because safety is an important part of building a sustainable city. And this is all in keeping with our overarching goal, and that is to position Guyana as a major tourism destination, as a safe destination, as a green destination. And our capital city is a representation of the entire country. So the capital city must not only be clean and safe and green, but the capital city must also demonstrate the vibrancy of the society, the culture of the society. It must demonstrate the different aspects of Guyana and what we offer. Similarly, I believe the airport should tell a story when you come into a country. That is why in Terminal 2 you will see the story of Guyana being told. So these are some of the things that are critical to the rescuing of our city, also ensuring that our services, the service delivery aspects on the bus of the city.
Mr. President, you're also back from a very important event, and that is the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly. And this is considered one of the most powerful platforms within which global leaders converge and they discuss very important issues. But on the sidelines of this event, what can you tell us about some of the meetings that have been held and the outcomes expected for Guyana?
Well, it's important, and you asked a very important question there, Kiana, because at UN, many people get to see some of the activities and meetings, and they focus only on the General Assembly. But the UN brings together all world leaders. It is the largest gathering of every stakeholder in global affairs. So there are a number of meetings that we're engaged in when we go to the United Nations that are critical for our development, that are critical for the region, and that are important in the way we define our foreign policy. And those meetings are either requested, and some are requested by us. And they're high-level meetings. The foreign minister, the foreign ministry, and other ministers and officials will take different levels of meetings. So at this UN, we had, as usual, we had some all-nighters. We had meetings that cover important aspects of our development. When we talk about food security, the rice industry, looking at the challenges in terms of transport and logistics, security, national security. These are all areas that we would have had bilaterals, talking about biodiversity, climate change. We engage in a number of roundtables and discussion on Guyana's position on various global issues, climate change, energy, security, as I said, the pandemic, the crisis of the pandemic. And these are important studies that we receive as head of state, receive as a country on all of these areas, and it allows us the opportunity to dig deep within those studies to get critical information, and it helps us to define policies and pursue policies in keeping with these challenges that the world will experience and the system is experiencing. Some are systemic. When you look at the challenge of transportation and logistics, it's a systemic issue that affects country across all geographic space. But understanding how this will play out in the next 12 months and talking to the stakeholders who are directly involved help us to define our policies in a greater way.
Mr. President, I know that the topic of climate justice and the importance of halting biodiversity loss were two key pillars in your presentation before the UN General Assembly. Tell us a bit about some of the discussions that were had, if you can give us a little bit more insight on how this Guyana intends to further its cause on these two fronts, and what has been the reception of stakeholders that you've engaged?
So, we have engaged stakeholders at the highest level. We started here in Guyana. In 2024, I announced that Guyana will host the Global Biodiversity Alliance. We have been able to form that alliance, so Guyana is taking the lead now on biodiversity, as we have done with forests. And we have cemented our place globally as a responsible country, responsible people, and taking on bold challenges. Many people believe that we have walked away from all of these, walk away from championing all of these things. Now that we have energy sector that is fueled by oil and gas, but we have shown and demonstrated that our value system and our principles and what we fight for is not a one-day fight, but what we believe in, we work for continuously. So I think that's the first point I want to make. Our international partners and stakeholders, be it the academic institutions, be it the resource institutions, the NGOs, the United Nations system, and our bilateral partners and multilateral partners, they all trust us on this issue because they've seen us demonstrate our commitment even in this phase of our national development. So I would have been able to engage the highest level of academia. We had a number of roundtables. Of course, we had the forum with President Lula on the Forest Forever Fund, which he's launching, and we were able to position our own strategies. As you know, we are the co-chair of the Coalition of Tropical Forested Countries, the FCLP. So we were able to have those engagements with President Lula, engagement with different stakeholders leading up to COP, defining our position going into COP, being able to speak about the outcome of the Global Biodiversity Alliance, right, whether it's at Concordia with the Clinton initiative, with Secretary Rubio, and all the other stakeholders from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, because as you know, the Saudi Arabia and the Middle East are also setting up a market-based mechanism, a payment mechanism for biodiversity services. So we are already engaging with Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, some of the partners, as to how we can pursue the opportunities in biodiversity services, especially given the fact that they have already advanced a payment system, a payment mechanism for biodiversity services. Because for us, as you know, this is part of that economic diversification. This is part of building out our economy. So on forest, climate change, biodiversity, we are not a listener. We listen all the time, but we are a leader. And the world recognizes Guyana as the foremost leaders in this sphere. So when we are attending these meetings in terms of climate and biodiversity, we are not attending these meetings as participants. We are attending these meetings with the world and all stakeholders recognizing that Guyana is providing great leadership on these issues. And it is coming at a time also, when there must be a balance in the conversation, because energy, for example, and this was a big debate we had among bilateral partners and all stakeholders. When you look at what is happening in Africa and the high percentage of the population without any access to energy, the levels of energy poverty, and look at AI and digitization, where the world is heading, just like the Industrial Revolution, many countries were left behind because they could not have compete, or they did not have the resources to transition during that Industrial Revolution. Similarly, when you look at what is happening in the world today, it is now the digital revolution and AI driving that. Yes. And many countries will be left behind because countries are still trying to get access to energy, and AI and digitization is powered primarily by large hyperscale data centers. And these require exorbitant amount of energy, tremendous amount of energy. So this energy must come from a source, and we know that energy has to be stable. It has to be like baseload energy. So the demand for energy is going to increase at a very, very rapid pace. And so to keep in tune with that demand and nature of that demand, whilst at the same time bringing the huge population set without any access to energy and those who are suffering from energy poverty, tells us that the energy mix, whilst we are all pursuing renewables and so on, long into the future, the energy mix will require petroleum and natural gas. And we have to have this conversation, recognizing this fact and recognizing that the balance that is needed in the discourse and conversation. And I think that is where the whole debate is going to end up. How do we achieve this balance? What constitutes that balance? And how do we incentivize the system to promote more research, innovation, and technology to reduce the carbon footprint and reduce the impact on the environment that energy extraction take up? And that is, I think many of the big players and stakeholders are also working with this in mind. So climate change invariably is linked to the conversation on energy. And then you speak about climate justice, and this is a concept, this is a major concept that many countries are discussing. There is, of course, as you know, President Trump's speech was interesting from many perspectives. And on climate also, he made some remarks. He had some remarks there that need to be taken into context also. And this is what I've been saying for a very long time. You know, there extremism from all sides of the equation. Mm-hmm. And what the world needs, and I think this is where we go, when we have different positions, we come together and come to a balanced position. On the other hand, you have persons who are extreme on the climate side. So how do we arrive at this balance? And I think that is where the United Nations and institutions of multilateral nature must lead the discourse. It must not be this against this. It must be how we bring these two positions into the center, and that is the role Guyana wants to play. And we can play that role by demonstrating, not only from a theoretical perspective, but from a practical perspective as to how we bring that balance. And brings me back to climate justice. In the Caribbean, as you know, and I can speak, and the Pacific, we are perhaps the most, I would say, trusted voice to speak on climate justice, because here we suffer the most with climate events and the impact of climate change. And climate justice involves also the access to financing. It involves the adaptation and mitigation measures and financing for those measures. Mm-hmm. It involves the global system. How do you treat climate financing? It involves the fairness of the cost of that financing. When countries have to adjust, when countries have to invest. And if you look at us in Guyana here, we suffered for that and we continue to suffer because we borrow at international rate to protect our low-lying coastal sea defense system. It's a lot of money that we'll continuously have to invest in. This is not a one-off investment. So too with drainage and irrigation. Right? And when you speak about climate justice too, it is about the displacement that climate change causes. When you look at Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and Africa, and see what the impact of climate change in terms of livelihood, displacement of people, displacement of the economy, the impact on the fishing industry, the impact on crops and livestock. You know, when you have long period of droughts, when you have excessive rainfall that lead to flooding. So the climate justice also involves how the system is geared towards responding to these events and dealing with the displacement of people, the size of the population that is pushed into poverty because of climate-related event. So this is the totality of the climate justice conversation, and how do we address this conversation from a multilateral perspective and from a perspective in which we address the core of the issues and deal with the challenges.
Mr. President, a number of countries would have articulated their concerns about emerging issues in the years to come. And of course, Guyana does not operate in a silo. We do have to pay attention to some of these issues. And you spoke about, in your address, about how conflict is impacting issues such as food security. But in addition to food security, what are two other emerging challenges that you believe Guyana will be keeping its eyes on as the new world order settles in?
Oh, and I like how you put that, Kiana, because in 2024, a number of leaders were speaking about this new world order. Mm-hmm. But I think that on the surface of it, the world is very troubled. And we live on the very troubling times on the surface of it. But when you dig deep, when you dig deep into what we are able to achieve towards the world, there are so many bright spots and so many changes that is occurring that will change forever the way change forever the way in which we deal with many challenges. When you look at the level of innovation and technology in dealing with healthcare, in dealing with education, in dealing with physical infrastructure, in dealing with the human capital, it is amazing to see the successes that the world is achieving and our innovators are achieving. So there's a lot of bright spots, but we are so caught up in the challenges of the world. When you look at conflicts, as you said, right, whether it's Somalia, what is happening in Haiti, what is happening in Palestine, and all of these issues we spoke about. There are also emerging conflicts and tensions.
Yes.
And, when you look at the emerging conflicts and tension, it is very troubling because a lot of the emerging tensions and conflict are in areas that are important for global supply of food and global supply of services. When you have these conflicts and wars and transportation routes are cut off, or trading routes are cut off, it affects the global system. Mm-hmm. And that is why sometimes if we think in silos, we don't understand the complexity of the environment the countries operating. And then you look at conflict from a physical perspective. But also we have to deal with what I think is the era of disruption. Mm-hmm. And disruption brings with it also some positive things. You can have institutional change in disruption. You can have improvement of the system. There's a reevaluation of the system to see whether the system is working, where the weaknesses are. So if you look at the international trade system now, there's a lot of disruption that is taking place. Mm-hmm. The debate on tariffs. And it allows us this opportunity to dig deep and dive deep, to understand the nature of the disruption and to see how countries are able now to build systems to withstand this disruption in markets, disruption in policy. So disruption is not a negative word in this sense. It is understanding the nature of the disruption. So I think that the world is going through a phase of disruption when you look at global leadership on different issues. AI is disrupting things, the way and nature in which things is being done. Digitization is disrupting the norm. And if you can't adapt to these things, then you will not be able to be competitive. That is why we'll be building out an AI and digitized infrastructure, not only for Guyana, but for the region that will be second to none. Because the energy that we have as a blessing now must be able to position our country to be ahead of the competition and to be part of this whole change, global change that is taking place. Multilateralism itself is being disrupted to the extent that many people are questioning whether globalization is still relevant.
Yes.
But these disruption allows us the scope and opportunity to evaluate even the question about the benefits of the United Nations and you know at 80 whether United Nations has really fulfilled its mandate. But sometimes we have to all remember that the United Nations can only fulfill its mandate if all of us as nations and members of the United Nations fulfill our mandate. And our mandate to promote peace, to promote equity, to promote a global system that does not expand inequality but brings countries closer together. So I think that the global system would be tested, and we have to ensure as a country that we remain relevant in this period of disruption. That is why our partners and our allies are very important to us. You know, when you look at where Guyana is heading, where our economy is heading, the nature of the investments in Guyana, and our geographic location, we are very clear on how we support our partners, how we support our allies, and how we will work together with our partners and allies in creating the environment that would ensure the stability, growth, development, security of Guyana and this region.
Mr. President, on the topic of tensions, we heard at the UN General Assembly concerns from some of our CARICOM leaders about the build-up of military assets within the Caribbean Sea. And for some of our CARICOM leaders, this is not an issue of concern, but rather it is seen as a positive. Does this give Guyana some degree of peace of mind?
Well, you know, Guyana has always promoted this region as a zone of peace. You've always promoted not only the region as a zone of peace, but we have promoted diplomacy amid the greatest of threats from Venezuela. Amidst the greatest of threats. Every single day, the Venezuelan government attack me personally, attack this country. They say the worst thing about us. But we have never responded in a hostile way. We responded with facts and truth. And facts and truth is the basis of which our diplomacy is formed. And the truth is that our borders were settled in the arbitral award, and we encourage Venezuela to participate in the ICC. Having said that, when you speak about the zone of peace is not only about threats to borders. It's also about threats that we are not seeing. And we know that as a country, we have expressed concern about the growing drug trade, overflights over Guyana. We've expressed this with our partners. The waterways, the international waters being used for transshipment. So we cannot ignore the fact that there are these challenges. We know the challenge of illegal migration, the challenge of drug trafficking. We also have, as I said, the intelligence network. And I think there need to be, as I've said, with my colleagues in a roundtable discussion, and also I think it was a public event where all the regional leaders were there. I said that this requires a mature discussion also, in which we look at the intelligence services. I mean, it's okay to say that you see the U.S. Building up military presence, but is there something else that is going on that the public is not seeing? And that is what the mature. You notice Prime Minister Mate, I think, refer to the building up of military on all sides, even in Venezuela.
Yes.
So, and that's of concern to us, because and that is why the mature conversation must examine the facts as to
The
what
whole
is
picture.
happening, and who are the other players in the region? Who are the other players in the region, and where are they playing? And what is their purpose? And I think, and that is where leaders are must lead, and you have to have the totality of the situation. So we are very, very keen on this issue. Of course, we have expressed our strong support in crippling transnational crime, illicit activities, but we are also, our eyes is wide open on this matter, because, you know, our intelligence services, our partners, and I think that what is needed is a meeting of minds, meeting in a you know, to share intelligence and to share information, so a fuller understanding of what is at stake here is before all of us.
Mr. President, my last question on the UN General Assembly. One of the important points you raised during your presentation is that we are going to be exiting our seat at the end of this year. Are you satisfied with the work that has been done in strengthening Guyana's position to say that our sovereignty is a non-negotiable, and the work that we've also done to garner more allies on our side?
Well, I'm happy you asked that. First of all, I want to thank the entire team from the Foreign Ministry here and the team at the Permanent Office in New York. You know, Guyana profile has been lifted to an extent that we are now a respected voice. You know, the world trusts us. They know that our values don't change, our principles don't change. Our position is based on what is best for humanity, what is best for peace, what is best for the world. So we have gained every single leader, every single delegation, every single permanent representative that I came in contact with were complimentary about the way Guyana performed at the Security Council. And I think there's a general consensus that the team did exceptionally well, and I congratulate them. And it's definitely raised our profile. It has definitely earned us more friends. It has definitely positioned us in better light in our own challenges. And I believe that we have been able to make the case very strong that our borders were settled and that we are pursuing the controversy raised by Venezuela in the international court, and we ask them to respect that.
Finally, Mr. President, the elections are behind us, your cabinet is in place. How soon can we expect Parliament to be convened?
Well, first of all, Kiana, I want to say, you know, you can always count on this PP civic government to do everything within the Constitution. And I would never, ever do anything that is outside of the Constitution. And 69(1) of the Constitution speak to this matter. You know, the President will reconvene Parliament. You have until 4 months after the Parliament was dissolved. The Parliament was dissolved on around the 3rd of July? I think the 3rd of July, the Parliament was dissolved. So if you check from the 3rd of July, I still have a lot of time in the Constitution to reconvene Parliament. You know, I think it will take me some time in November within the Constitution. So I think that Guyana can trust the People's Progressive Party civic government, and you know that we will operate within the Constitution, and that is what we are doing. The Constitution gave me a time frame, and you know, I was elected as president, and what I can assure you and Guyana is that it will be reconvened within the constitutional limits and constitutional time frame.
Mr. President, thank you for your time this morning. I'll let you get back to handling the affairs of this nation.
Thank you very much. This was good. This was beautiful out here.
Yes, it was indeed.
Let me offer you a mango from our tree, you know. You can have a mango. And,
thank you very much.
And there's a way you eat this mango, you see.
What?
You will go with a knife and cut this mango.
Yes.
I'm from Lenora, you know, you guys from Georgetown will say we're from the country. So we have a different approach to eating this mango. See that?
Okay.
Only in Guyana. Nature fresh.
That's your morning breakfast.
Always good to start the day with fresh Guyanese fruit. We are blessed with great variety of fruits and encourage every Guyanese. Get a Guyanese fruit, start your day with it, get your vitamins in, and you'll get the energy to face the day. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, Mr. President. You too.
Thank you.